Hello and welcome to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I am delighted to have from across the ocean the wonderful and beautiful Tina. Thank you for joining me, beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited because I absolutely love what you do. And for most people who follow the show, they know I get so carried away because I just get so excited to talk to just like epic human beings like yourself. But I'm going to pause just for a moment and I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. And I know that we're going to have a very wonderful and probably uplifting. And I don't know, I just get this sense that there's going to be really a lot of impact in this conversation.
I'm all about the impact. I'm Tina Kapp-Kailea. I come to you from New Zealand, from Auckland, and I am an unapologetic wild woman and possibility agent. I changed that title on my business card when I turned 50 last year. I'm a transformational and award-winning embodiment coach and feminine business mentor, a book doula, an author, and also an international speaker. And I like giving women the permission to play a bigger game, to embody who you are, to be unapologetically yourself and actually show up in your brand like you mean it. And this is giving me a lot of joy because I've gone through my own journey of wanting to hide and not being center of attention. And if I can show up on stages and podcasts and write my story in a book, then so can you. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. I love everything, all the essence about you, because I mean, let's just face it, it's very hard work in life, but we can make it easier by being ourselves.
Absolutely. It's exhausting if we're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I was literally just having this conversation before going, I remember the corporate days going home and I was exhausted, so exhausted. But now I find it's just easier to be myself. The only person who I have to give permission to please is myself. And
Absolutely. And it takes courage because
it does.
there's conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about your journey, like how you got to be who you are, because I think a lot of people go, oh, but that's easy for them. But we've all had a journey, we've all had a process that we've gone through.
Yeah. Mine started actually when I was a little girl. I was always the wild, boisterous child. I had short hair, everyone had long hair. I used to ride my horses without a saddle and not the figure eight in the riding school. So always a little bit against the grain. And it has caused, I guess, a bit of triggering for the people around me. I wanted to desperately fit in at the time, and it wasn't always me. So I spent a good 3 decades trying to, fit the status quo and do what everyone else does. And I realized that there was something missing. And I grew up in Germany. I spent my first 25 years of my life up in Germany in a small rural village. And everyone did the normal thing in inverted commas, like, they married a high school sweetheart, they get married, have children, they have their 2.5 weeks a year and going somewhere to Spain or Italy on holiday to roast on the beach. I was getting Lonely Planets and all the brochures from the Tahiti, Peru, Galapagos. I always was adventurous. And I go, how can I pull this off? And when I ended up working, I did an apprenticeship, did the business school. I actually wanted to be a graphic artist back then, and it was before software existed. And my parents said, oh, there's no money in the arts. You're going to do a business school. If you do something that's an office environment, you always have something to fall back on. So off I went, and it got me to a lot of places, but I also realized that there were limitations as a woman of childbearing age in the environment that I was in, male dominated, the hierarchy, the bosses in the big office and the secretaries doing the typing. And I realized I was really hitting roadblocks. I wanted to use my brain. I wanted to, represent at exhibitions and do sales and do creative stuff. But the trajectory for me was either receptionist, admin, or secretary to the CEO, which is fine, but it wasn't me. So I had an offer to go to New Zealand, and I go, oh, yes, please. So I came here for a year, and my parents at the time were going, really? You couldn't find a place further away? And I always wanted to travel there. It was on the bucket list. And after a year, I realized, wow, things are a lot less constrictive. I felt like I could breathe and do some things that I would have never done back home because no one knew me. So that sort of triggered a few things. But then, when I entered corporate, I got hooked into the, working your way up the ladder and getting the big titles, the big salary, corner office, business travel. And I thought that was the way to prove to yourself and the world that I've made it. So I ended up in a six-figure publishing job. And on paper, I had it all. Behind the scenes, I felt like I had to put on a mask every day just to function. And that little wild girl who was pretending to be, fitting into everything was very strict with herself. And again, I felt like I had to dress a certain way, be a certain way, because that was the expectation and what was modeled to me. But on the inside, I was eroding. And it came to a big blow when I burned out. I had adrenal fatigue from constant stress. I had anxiety. I had a narcissistic boss, which I'll come back later. And I ended up having depression. And sadly, I miscarried 5 pregnancies in that environment while trying to ignore what had happened to me and just carry on, keep up appearances. And that really broke me. And it literally was my body's decision that, hey, this is it. You hit the end of the road. And I exited. And it's taken me a good decade to come back to the woman you see today. And writing my story and publishing my book about how I got from that point in my life to what I teach and coach on and speak on today has been a huge journey, rewarding, but also a bit scary at times. And that's why I always say I'm a possibility agent for those women who listen, who resonate, to know that if I can go through the bottom and rock bottom parts, so can you. There is a way out. And I think this is the beauty of having these open conversations. Every time we are vulnerable and we're showing that, hey, shit, it's not in order. I'm not fine. People know I'm not the only person feeling that. And I think we're perpetuating that specifically in corporate. So that's a bit about my journey.
Yeah, I resonate with so much. And I think that's why we had this sort of like instant connection where we met a few months ago, because I did the same thing. I was in corporate and then I got very, very sick, and I've been out of corporate 10 years today, like this year. But it's still a process to sort of go through. And like you're saying, like we all wear these masks. But do you ever feel like, I know sometimes I can easily slip back into it because it was almost like that mask was like a safe zone and you could hide behind it. Whereas
I
being
think,
yourself, you're fully out there.
I think I wouldn't say so much slipping back into it anymore. It's been a decade for me as well. And I have to say, I sometimes come across women who still are like a hologram of what I used to be like. And I see them and I know I triggered them because I've stepped out and I used to be the same one. You see this carefree woman on the crosswalk with her yoga mat under her arm while you're racing from meeting to meeting and have no time to breathe, even have lunch away from your desk. And you go, oh, yeah, she's probably married, rich, or, those judgments that come out. And that's when I realized at the time I was deeply unhappy and I really desired to have that, to be that. And those triggers are usually our body telling us that something is out of order. But obviously, we have to function. So we brush it aside, move on, and come up with something to justify that in our head. And the biggest thing for me is whenever I feel these things, oh, I'm overworking a little bit, or why is this bugging me? I think you hone in on the awareness to go, okay, so you ricocheting back into an old pattern. I see it. I can feel through it, and then I can release it because I've moved on from that. So that awareness of the reaction, I think that's what we're honing in on as we go through the process. And I liken it to if you step out of these things that are not good for us, whether that's corporate or relationship or other things, you step out of the box and onto a spiral. Now, that spiral is not a perfect loop, neither is it ever finished. So I think it swings in roundabouts because I have moments where I go, oh, isn't that interesting? I thought I dealt with that. Why is that coming back up? So sometimes it's just a deeper layer or another little, remnant in the chimney that you have to go, okay, we're going to have to sweep that out.
Yeah. Oh, I love those analogies so much. Um, because I think a lot of the times, like if we go back to what you were saying, it's the trigger within us because our body is telling us something. Like as women, we have such great gut instincts, but then it disappears after a while. I shouldn't say disappear, it's pushed down so much. But it's that awakening that we have, like to sort of start trusting that instinct. It's like your body's telling you, like your spidey senses go off, like all those sorts of things. It's actually time for us to start listening to our body because our head and our heart sometimes, can give us mixed emotions, but that gut instinct, like it's just learning to trust it so much more.
Yeah, and I think we are conditioned into believing that we can't trust ourselves.
Mm.
And that's also when it feels like you're on black ice, where you go, "Oh, I know, my mind is telling me that this is fine, that the ground is solid underneath that, but it still feels uncomfortable because it's slippery." Uh, and I think I love this topic because I see it play out. And the effects of it in corporate. I think it's part of the reason why the fempreneur came to me, because when I stepped out of corporate, I went into free fall. The identity was completely outside of myself and how I perceived my worth, and the accreditations and accolades, all the things that you tick off. That is outside stuff. Inside, I
Mm.
didn't quite know who I was because I've been so busy chasing, and being in that corporate hamster wheel. I didn't know who I was. And I went into a woman's circle in a yoga studio. And that's how I sort of started going down the woo woo route and really understanding what was going on and what I've gone through, where something was cracked open and I started crying. I couldn't stop. So I knew something that was long suppressed was bubbling to the surface. And the hard reality for me at the time was to realize that my lifestyle and my participation in this career that I had and the stress I was under and letting it happen for so long, my body didn't deem it safe enough from a biological and physiological part to carry a pregnancy to full term. That was not an easy one to explore. And there's never a proof, but I remember wondering, why is this happening to me? Why over and over again? And there was an element where I didn't understand what that cortisol and the adrenal fatigue, what that did to my cycle and to my body. And as women in particular, we're not meant to technically do 9 to 5 and go the same old day in, day out, because we're cyclical. So the fempreneur for me was aligning and honoring my energetics a little more and really taking time to be still. And I think for women, being still, we equal that with being lazy because we're constantly looking after everybody else without actually filling our cup. And society and history has designed it that way. And a lot of women are mothers and they think, yeah, that's a very feminine thing. And while it's a feminine role, the energetic of motherhood is actually masculine because you're constantly doing, and never having time to stop. So that's where we live completely out of alignment with who we actually are. And yes, and I don't call myself a feminist, I'm a feminine activist, which is different because I try to be a man in a man's world. And that's what broke me and burned me out. So if we would allow ourselves to honor our energy and the feminine, um, I guess, role that we show up in, including corporate, we would actually be able to bring ourselves more fully to the table because with feminine leadership, it's a lot more nourishing and nurturing. And I think we are shortchanged a little bit because we only have one status quo, and they're often men in leading positions or male dominated industries. If we would be allowed to show up the way we are, I think we would have a lot more harmony in those work environments. And you don't have to turn on the news to see what the opposite of that is and how that shows up in the greater scheme of things.
Mm. Oh my God, honestly, there's so much I want to unpack just with what you said. Because if I had been shown to give myself permission, to show up as myself in corporate. I think I would do things so much more differently, like right now. But also, too, like you're saying, it is still a very masculine sort of role or, corporate world out there. What is one thing that women could do right now to show up more in that feminine energy, to sort of allow themselves to shine, give themselves that permission to be who they are? Because I think there's so much untapped potential with having more women in the corporate roles.
Ooh, I could talk another hour on this one alone. I would say I would say there is so much that we've been told we can do. And I see a lot of training. I'm a certified corporate trainer in the US. I've done a lot of lunch and learns and, DEI and EAP services, all that fluffy stuff on the surface. It's not addressing the actual issue, because they can give us all the things and seat at a table. And I've got women who have top positions, but deep down, we are still acting from a little girl that doesn't feel good enough or acknowledged. So we feel we have to push harder, work harder, hustle harder. So it is an inner work. And this is where I would say, controversial, because I'm not a lot of fluff on the surface. My coaching goes into the subconditioning, because I've gone through that to address, why did I let these things happen for so long? And because I was acting from that hurt little girl, trying to prove myself, trying to validate myself, I was easy fodder for the narcissistic boss that I had at the time, because he could just manipulate me and had me in the palm of his hands. And it pains me, especially as a black belt in karate, to admit that I was in fear, even to the point where I go, I can't. What would happen if I leave this job? Because people on the outside go, just find another job, leave it. I, for some reason, made myself believe that I can't possibly find another job that is in that pay range and that lead, da 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 da. So it is inner work, and it's not comfortable and it's not easy. So I think that's the one thing that I would say to women: explore and ask for help. I would have not been able to do all of this if I didn't ask for help. I would probably still be spinning, thinking something is wrong with me. And I think this is what a specific thing for women. We always look at the fault within ourselves. And then we think we're the one that has to fix everything, rather than going, you know what? I know my worth, and I can say no with conviction. And that takes courage. And ironically, that is one of the first things that I do when I teach women self-defense, the voice, saying no. And it comes from within, because there's an attitude behind it. There's a certain, ooh. And if we don't show up like that and have a voice to match that, we are constantly sort of asking a question rather than making a statement, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Like, I hear you. I mean, I had a narcissistic husband, and it was very, very hard. Like, you sort of like blame yourself. But there was, like you're saying, the conditioning, like, not that you say like it's your parents, right, but it's just the roles or the things that you're exposed to as being young. Like, as children, we were told to be seen but not heard. But now I realize why I was told that I was too loud as a kid, because I had something to say, but we were told we weren't allowed to speak up. And it's really interesting how we sort of can look back on all of those different experiences that we've had as to why certain things you've experienced, but then also how then we can know what we need to work on to help be the essence of who we're really meant to be.
Yeah, and there's freedom that comes with it, because we are not two different people. We can be privately the same person as you are at work. And I see it in business women as well, when they have a beautiful curated Instagram feed, for example, but you know that that's just a surface, and they are so put together all the time. And for me, it's like, yes, I see that, but there's something on the subconscious level that goes, but you're not showing me all of you, so I'm not sure I'm trusting you. And that's an important part, because this day and age with AI, the human element is the only thing that makes us real, and that's our voice. And yes, there is cloning, there's all sorts of things, but we know human connection is always going to be there. Yes,
Mm.
AI can help us. It's a tool, and we're embracing it, which is necessary. It's part of our evolution. But human connection is what will set you apart from the noise and all the artificial stuff, because we still crave that realness. So for
Mm.
me, I show up often when I have my morning routine. I climb out of my ice bath and I sit in my bathrobe in my garden. That's when I feel like going live on Instagram. And people go, oh, they call them now bathrobe musings, because they realize that's me, and that's how I roll. There's a lot of other stuff and photo shoots and done
Yeah.
up to the max. But a lot of people go, oh, I haven't seen you in a bathrobe for a while. And I had other people say, oh my
Yeah.
God, you're destroying your brand. And I go, no, I'm just being me. I'm
Yeah.
unapologetically myself, wild, woo, and wonderful. And people go, oh, but it takes courage. I used to be terrified going live. I had a German
Mm.
accent. English is not my first language. All the stories. And you grow with it. You grow into it, and eventually you go, you know what? This is me. If you don't like
Yeah.
it, unfollow me. I'm not fast.
Yeah.
And that's what I would love every woman to find within themselves, because then they become so powerful. And maybe it's an age thing, um, but it's a beautiful thing. So I think my role in feminine leadership and mentorship in business is fostering that in younger women much earlier. Because if I had role models like this, or people who would actually speak into that when I was in my 20s, my life could have turned out quite different. So this
Mm.
is, I think, the social responsibility, and collaboration is the new domination. If we just stop comparing each other and competing, we can actually
Mm.
achieve things, because we're wired to connect.
Yeah. I love that so much because there's so many people out there going, oh, but they do similar to me, or oh, I can't share that with them because they might take my idea. I'm like going, but you're so unique. Like people are, I mean, if you look at it, you've
Exactly.
got different brands of like bread or different brands of like, all that sort of stuff. You're going to be, led. Everyone's got their own preference. And I think we need to remember that there's
Yeah.
enough for everybody. Like there's just so much abundance in the world that if we keep thinking that we're not good, or somebody else is better at that, then that's literally what you're going to keep projecting onto yourself as well.
Absolutely. And I've done a lot of, I mean, there's the corporate identity tests and personality profiles, like, the DISC and the Gallup and what they're all called. For me, the human design part was actually quite a game changer, because I understood myself on so many levels. A lot of stuff when I thought, oh, I'm falling short on this and I need to work on ABC. When I looked at my manifesting generator, energetics, to go, all the things I try to suppress, I'm actually, that is me in my
Yeah.
fullest expression. So I can do, like, the Maybelline ad now. I'm just born with that,
Yeah.
and be done with it
I love
and
it.
embrace it. So
Yeah.
you always learn a little bit more
Yeah.
about yourself, and applying that to how I show up in business and who I partner with in team dynamics,
Mm.
been a game changer.
Yeah.
And I would love more companies to actually look into those elements, because it's more holistic.
Yeah.
And a weakness is not highlighted as something you need to eliminate. It's just something you can actually alchemize. You can move
Yeah.
through it. But imagine if somebody would give you projects and things because they know how you tick, and you give them that work, because when we're in our flow and we actually doing stuff we're really good at and what lights us up, then we can do a lot more, and it doesn't feel like work. So the burnout element is not there.
Yeah.
And I was asked that by an American magazine the other week about, as leaders, what do you do to create a burnout free corporate environment? And I go, well, there's so many things that we can tick off. So we're seen as being compliant and doing our bit and, giving women a little play pool. That's not it. If you actually look at holistically at your staff and take the time to understand them and not do the toxic traits yourself, then you can have some change. But it requires as leaders to dismantle that from the top down power over, and actually put ourselves within the circle or the ranks of our employees and really listen.
Mm.
And that requires, I guess, self-honesty and also not taking yourself too serious. Yeah, you might be the CEO and the company owner, but if you with integrity looking after yourself, then you're more likely to go and portray that through all the structures in your company.
Mm. Absolutely. I mean, I'm like disqualified, but I would never now go back and recommend that because it literally is pigeonholing you into four little boxes, whereas we're so much more than just four boxes ourselves. So, I mean, I'm just like going, oh, how did I ever think that I could just fit into one tiny little box? Like, yeah, we are destined for so much more. And I think, the work that you're doing now is showing women the limitless possibilities that they have within themselves as well, and giving them that hope, that inspiration, but also a pathway of how they can get there, like a pathway that you've walked down yourself. I think that's the most important gift that you're giving everybody right now, is that you've been down that pathway. You know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not another train coming directly at you. There is that end, that they've got this
Absolutely.
endless landscape in front of them as well.
Yeah, and that's exciting because when I first started, I go, okay, well, I don't have qualifications. You fall into this trap like I haven't studied this or that. But from my own lived experience, I do know burnout, I do know grief, I do know fertility, and I do know menopause and certain other parts. So that's from my lived experience, and my framework to work through the things will get you the same result because I've been through it. A lot of my clients have worked with me on that, and they become confidants and other rebel women that want to be around you, and each and every one of them carries a light or a spark that then goes, oh, we're touching other people. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will, where if we step out of our box and another three women do the same, that's how we create that ripple effect. And the internet and technology, we can do it globally. We don't need to look at our immediate surroundings. That's a great area to be alive in, I guess. And despite all the things that are going on, it's up to us to be the change and to take up the armor, the sword, whatever you want to call it, sword of truth, I call mine, to go, yeah, I'm calling it out. And I don't care what the ramifications are to me because I'm not dependent on one corporation to create my lifestyle and dictate everything around it. I step out of that. And yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. It's got good parts and bad parts. But if you come back to why, that's that's what gets me to you get really excited out of bed in the morning, go, wow, I get to do this. And then you see the ripple effect you create and the impact you make. And I go, yeah, that is all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say to somebody who is listening to this right now and sort of like going, oh, it's all good for you? And like I hear that so much. Well, it's all good for you. I'm like going, but I've done the work. Do you know what I mean? Like you and I have both done the work and we've been very raw, we've been vulnerable, and we've been very uncomfortable. What would you say to someone listening right now that's just basically going, oh, well, it's all good for you?
I would say it's time to be brutally honest with yourself and actually spend some time in reflection to go, is that really all there is? Is that what you're content with? What desires and dreams did you have? And you take aligned action to you show up the way you want to be until you become that, if that makes sense. I've decided 3 years ago, because I wanted to be on stages and I wanted to do things global, and I didn't know where to start. So I showed up and I've spoke at every opportunity that I had, whether it was a workshop, a podcast, or a summit. And I just said yes to every opportunity. And some of it was scary. And I go, oh, haven't got it all figured out.
Hmm.
But then you worry about that later. And
Yeah.
Sir Richard Branson has a beautiful quote: if an opportunity presents itself to you, you say yes. and you worry about how you're going to do it later. And I like that. And I have a lot of respect for him because I think he's an example of having fun and having done huge things, but without ever losing himself or who he is. And that's admirable in leaders when you have that caliber. You can use it for a lot of good, and you can still have your fun and you know all your toys.
Yeah.
And I think if you remember who you are in the core, big success or big money is not going to change you. And then the outside world does not necessarily want to tear you down either, because just show up in integrity, really get honest with yourself. And if you feel like, oh yeah, maybe I'm just telling myself because, I'm actually a bit scared. It may be, oh, no one in my family did this, or I can't possibly, none of my friends are into that. Do it anyway. Because yes, some people may fall by the wayside, but you gain a whole another lot of people who vibe with you as you navigate to what was the thing that really lit you up as a child. That's often a good clue. And I take my clients all the way to look at what was happening in your transformative years. Where have you picked up stories that you internalize that actually are not yours? And how are we going to work through that one to get you to a point where you become aware, you know how to react, and you can go and show up from a place of deep integrity, and you get to have some fun.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it so much. I wish that, I know that this is one of your whys, to show other people because you want to make a difference in so many women's lives. And I am just so grateful that you're doing this now. Very similar to you, I wish I had a mentor back in my corporate days. Maybe things would be differently, but I also know that I had to have those experiences because it's made me who I am today. But I am just so, so grateful for
Yeah.
what you're doing right now and just giving so much permission for women to truly shine and be their authentic self. So I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I think it's truly amazing.
Thank you so much.
You are absolutely amazing. We're going to pop all the details, first of all, how people can work with you. But what would you give to advice, say to your younger self that might resonate with somebody right now?
Stop caring so much what other people think of you. Do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I mean, they're not new statements, but they are the ones that have really rung true as I was going through my journey and my up level. You can do a lot more than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. How can, if a woman's watching this right now and they're feeling that stir within themselves, going, oh my goodness, I've got to reach out, how can they work with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Tina Kapp-Kailea. Look for the pink jacket. That's one of my trademark colors. And on Instagram at _fempreneur. And fempreneurpathfinder.com is my website, where I talk a little bit about what I do, how I coach, what I offer. And also there's some beautiful clients who have some great stories to share after they have come through working with me, which is always something where you go, yes, I'm doing that for that. And if I see this more and more, then I've made a difference and I'm reaching. I want to light those women up that are listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just think you're absolutely amazing. I love what you're doing. We're going to pop all the links for people to reach out to you, and I highly encourage you, especially if you're in corporate or even if you're just in that throes of life going, you know what, this is just not working. Like, what's going on? Reach out to Tina. But before you go, beautiful, I've got 5 questions that we've been asking all of our guests. Just a little bit of fun to get to know you on a personal level. Are you ready for them?
Oh, most certainly am.
Okay, cool. If you have some spare time, because I know that you're so multi-passionate and you're just beautiful at what you do, would you prefer to sit down and watch a movie or read a book?
Read a book.
Yeah, yeah. And would that be a physical book or a Kindle?
It would be a physical book because I don't do Kindle. I do audiobooks when I'm walking or in the car. Otherwise, physical books. I love the texture, the smell of it, and having my own book in that thing is like, yeah, I'm books.
Yeah, I am exactly the same. I don't know. There's just, I know because I'm a kinesthetic type person. I need the touch and the feel. So yeah, I understand.
It's the
If
smell and the
you,
paper rustling, and even
it
on
is.
a plane, no Kindle.
Oh, I know. And it's almost like a Carrie Bradshaw moment. She's sitting in bed with Big and she smells the books and like people don't understand it, but unless you're a book person. So,
Oh, my favorite TV program. I actually put one of her quotes in my book because, yeah, I love Carrie Bradshaw.
yeah, I love it. If you could travel to your most dream destination, would you prefer to travel by boat or plane?
Plane.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have a fear of flying, because I'm like scared of heights and claustrophobic, but you get there faster, so yeah, I still do it. Yeah,
It's something about being on a plane, and because I'm from Europe and my family is there, it sort of feels like you're in between time zones and not in this world, and I love it.
yeah, absolutely. If you're going to host a dinner party, you get a special ticket and you can invite one special person from either the past or the present. Who would it be?
Ooh, ooh. From the present, it would be Sir Richard Branson, absolutely hands down. If it was from the past, Mary Magdalene.
Oh, what a contrast, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Yes. I really want to come to that dinner party just by, you know, if there's a spare seat, I'll be there.
Oh, if we manage how to do that, you've got a standing invitation.
Thank you. And if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Oh, wild.
Yeah. Yeah, but in such a
That
good
is who I am.
way. I
And
love
all
it. Yeah,
well, my husband might differ with that on occasion. Other people think like, "What did you just say that?" But yeah, I am fully wild
yeah,
in
yeah,
the way I show up, and it's just always been
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I adore you. I love what you're doing. Honestly, I would really recommend anyone who is sitting there and they've just got that, I don't know, I call it an incline or, your stomach's just reacting in any way that you need to reach out to Tina. It honestly, like you and I have both been on a very similar journey, but you're helping women truly shine in every aspect of their lives. And that's what I think I am so grateful that you are allowing yourselves to shine, to give people the permission to shine as well. So thank you so much, beautiful, for being here.
Thank you for having me, and it's been an honor being in your beautiful magazine, and I'll keep an eye out on the rebranded version.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that. So, and I'd love to have you come back into a new Inspire magazine. We'll definitely get you featured in that as well because you truly inspire me. So, thank you so much for that. I am just so grateful for
Thank
this
you.
beautiful woman. I am grateful for all of you tuning in and listening. Remember to live life to the fullest every single day. Love and light to you all.